In a moment, I'm going to be talking to you about the momentum and the bottoming signals, and I'll be talking about two scenarios for the bottoming process. Talking a little bit about the Fed and what to expect. I expect a dovish pause. That's what I expect. I wanted to apologize. I had made the video yesterday, and the video was making pops and crackly noises with the audio, and I want to apologize for that. Previously, I had a cord that started giving me some problems. I replaced it with this new cord. I made a Bitcoin video right before my stock video, and I had no issues with it. It was fine. I checked the audio on it. But for some reason, I had issues with the cord. So I'm playing around with it, and maybe the positioning of it, I did something wrong, or maybe I should go with a different brand because I bought it. It was a brand I never bought before. So hopefully there won't be issues. And if there are issues, I'll listen to the audio here in the video today. And hopefully if there won't be any issues with the sound, but if there is, I'll continue to work with it. And if not, I'll just go and buy another brand new cord and another different brand. But I do have a brand new cord for my mic, and I don't know, I just maybe it's still in need of a little repositioning and tweaking there to get it right. But anyways, I do apologize, and I will get this resolved if the problem continues. Hopefully it won't. I want to apologize for that. And again, bullish bottoming signals, we need to see momentum flip. Watch the video all the way through. Now, on Friday, the VIX was predicting that we would have a down day in the next two trading sessions. We got it today. The VIX was absolutely correct once again. And the market was down ahead of the Fed today. The Dow was down 0.62%, down 260 points. The S&P was down just over 1%. It was at lower levels at the lows of the session, and then it recovered off of those lows. But it was down 60 points to close at 56.14 and some change. NASDAQ down 1.71%. The Russell down 0.88%. VIX, which predicted today's down day, up 5.81% to close at 21.70. Now, again, I believe the S&P is in a bottoming process. Now, we have some bullish signals, and I'll show it to you in a moment, okay? But we got to get momentum to flip. We're doing the exact same thing Bitcoin did under the 200-period moving average. It got some bullish signals. Momentum is flipped. Now we have to be able to turn the trend signals back to bullish. I told you we were on our way back up to test the 200. We came shy of it here just a little bit, but still might reach it. But I'm going to be watching. Do we mark a bottom here with a 5-leg push lower, or do we get one more push down and end up forming a divergence on the Awesome Oscillator and on the RSI in the daily time frame? We already have the bullish divergences that have given us this bounce in the 60-minute time frame. That has given us this bounce back to the 10 period, but we're stalling there. And we got just above it, moving towards that 200, as I told you we would, rally towards that 200 period. And the question now becomes, is this a bottom? We have to see the momentum flip here, getting back above the 200 period moving average, and the cloud will flip the cloud back to green, the bars back to blue, and again, they've been red ever since after we had that failed breakout back up at the peak on the S&P 500. We've been holding below that 10, and here we are. So the question is, do we now go down and get one more push down just beyond this low and form a divergence and then go, or is that a bottom and we plow on through the 10 period moving average, go test the 200 and even try to get above that? S&P is following Bitcoin, so we'll see. Now, Bitcoin did go back and test this low. S&P doesn't have to do that, and sometimes the relationship isn't perfect, but it still could, and I've talked about that with the Elliott wave count. But as what I'm watching is, do we get a divergence here? We don't have to. We may just see the green bars go green and keep going green and go into positive territory and get a move, just a catapult higher to test the 20 and to test the 50. Again, we are headed, once we get above the 200, we are headed for a test of the 50. The people telling us there's no possible way we're going to rally. Again, I'm telling you, we're going to rally to the 50 period moving average. This is the way it has played out at top after top after top. The 200 is tested, you rally back to the 50. And in the most recent tops, the 2000 top and the 2007 top. I've talked about this at great length in detail. As we're coming up here and getting this rebound, we've got bullish signals here. Still risk of testing the lows and a divergence, and I'll show you that in just a second. After the failed breakout with the NASDAQ, we have the same thing. The NASDAQ's getting the green bars. We're getting the rally back up. Didn't get as close to the 200 period moving average. We still may reach it. But the question now is, do we have a floor in right here, or do we go back and test it, end up getting the diversion, same thing, and then turn back up and see the signals flip back to bullish and get back above that too? Can we rally with the Fed? That's really what it comes down to. Again, I continue to believe that the Fed is going to announce the end of quantitative tightening, either at this meeting or the next one. And that's what I've been saying for a long time. I think it's going to be at this meeting or the next one. But could they do that at this one to try to give us a rally? Well, quantitative tightening is ending. We're going to get QE. And again, hear what I'm saying. I had somebody say to me, just because quantitative tightening ends, that doesn't mean it starts QE. That's not what I'm saying. People have selective hearing and they only hear what they want to hear. Listen carefully. The herd, now again, let me say this. The rate cuts and QE are bearish, but the herd believes that they're bullish. So are we going to get the end of, or the announcement that quantitative tightening is going to end as I'm expecting? And if I'm wrong about this meeting, I think it'll be the next one. I think they're going to do it. It's supposed to be later in the year. I think they're going to do it now for fear, trying to calm the markets down. But the markets, the herd will go, oh, yay, quantitative tightening's, ending. And maybe we get the Fed, maybe we get another cut penciled in to, we're going to get the projections for the Fed funds rate. We're going to get the dot plot and the economic projections. If the Fed pencils in another rate cut, they previously took it from 4 down to 2 in December. And then when if they, because of the weakness in the economy that we're seeing some weakness now, which I told you was going to happen, which we were told wasn't going to happen, what if the Fed throws the market a bone and throws in another rate cut in there and, bumps it up to 3 cuts for 2025? The market would go, oh, we got another cut coming and quantitative tightening's ending. Yay, QE's coming back. It's addicted to QE, but again, I'm not saying they're going to do QE. Okay, somebody is misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying if they end quantitative tightening, and that's if, I'm just telling you what I think. I think it's going to be here at this meeting or the next one. I think you got a good shot with all the volatility that they could try to do it right here. I said ending in, late March or on into April somewhere. That's what they could do. Or reduce it down further as they're moving towards, ending QE. That would help with some of the pressure with the economy. Markets could celebrate that. And all I'm saying is, again, the herd believes a lot of things that are not true. Okay, they believe we're going to have a soft landing. They're starting to get a reality check as we're now seeing evidence. I've been telling you, recession's coming. We had the recession indicators flash long before the election. It's not going to be tariffs that gives us the recession, as the media would have us to believe. Herd believes that tariffs cause inflation. Tariffs don't cause inflation. That's a myth. Again, also promoted by the media. Yes, we are going to have a recession, but again, this is not the 20% crash right before, or really to kick off the bear market. This isn't it. This is the major volatility that happens right before the final run-up to the blow-off top. Then you get your crash of 20% to kick off the bear market. Don't even have the 50 below the 200. It's probably going to be prevented with a massive rally back up, and that could be surrounding the Fed or good tariff news, as I keep saying. Again, you got the Treasury Secretary out there. Look, we're going to have these tariffs ready to go in April. We're going to present them, and then we're going to say, okay, to the European Union and other trading partners, do you want us to implement these, or do you want to come to the negotiating table? That's what's going to happen. You'll probably see Europe come to the negotiating table. Canada's already there. In order for things to go back to bullish, we've got to flip we've got to flip the cloud and the bars. The bars got to turn back to blue. The cloud has to turn back to green. You got to get back above this 10-period moving average. So we'll be watching the 200 up here, the 20, and the 50 here on the NASDAQ daily chart, along with that S&P 500. As we're getting the rally back up, down here we've got some bullish signals. If momentum can flip back to bullish, then we can start seeing trend signals turn back to bullish if we can get above the 200-period moving average, and you'll flip the momentum here into a bullish reversal of conditions for momentum on the S&P. Let's take a look at the signals. Now, I'm having some issues still with it, with the microphone cord. As I'm making the video, I'm trying to fix it as I'm working, so you have to just bear with me. But as we're getting sell-off, I think you either got a 5-leg push lower here for an ABC move, or it's not quite done yet. We get one more push down for a flush out, final flush out. And then I think you're going to rally up 15 to 20%. I think you're going to go make new highs above this high over here, which was our failed breakout above the January peak. But as we're getting the rally back up, we're doing what Bitcoin did. We're forming these signals. Now, we still may go down. Bitcoin had a second dip down. You could say this is a dip. We rallied back up here, and we formed a little divergence in the daily time frame and on some signals, and better defined it on the 60-minute chart. But we got to get the momentum line back to bullish. But you're getting these little bullish bottoming signals in the little circle there as we're trying to see momentum turn back up. So do we go up to that 200 period and then come back down, or do we try to plow on through it, or do we come down now and then go up to that level? It can happen a couple different ways, but I do think a bottoming process is under construction. But you're seeing the same signals that formed with Bitcoin. The momentum line turned back to bullish for Bitcoin. Do we see that happen with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ? This is the NASDAQ daily chart, by the way. If I said S&P a second ago, I meant NASDAQ. Same thing with the S&P 500. S&P daily chart, we're getting the little bottoming signals with the circle. We're getting the little B's showing a bottoming signal, but like we had the little topping signals back over here saying, hey, a top could be getting ready to happen. Well, the momentum line's got to turn back to bullish. And again, that was the NASDAQ we just looked at. Here's the S&P. And then we got to go up to that 200 period and begin to get back above it to flip all the trend signals back to bullish. But we're turning back up with the momentum line here. So again, going to be watching to see, do we follow Bitcoin's lead? And does Bitcoin clear the 200 period right here and now, and S&P and NASDAQ rally towards the 200, maybe even try to get back above them, or do we pull back first? We'll be watching. But again, Bitcoin got the bottoming signals and the momentum flipped. Got to get that momentum flipping, and then we got to be able to clear the 200 period moving average, and that's where Bitcoin is right now. But some very similar signals that formed on Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin did get a bottom and then a second bottom. Now here, we may already have that. We had a little bottom here under. Bitcoin got a bottom just under the 200, but it couldn't close there, and then it pushed down below. So I'm going to be watching. Does the market follow Bitcoin back up if Bitcoin can clear that 200 period? It's struggling at it right now. Do we see a Fed rally? Do we see a Fed rally and Bitcoin get back above that level in the S&P as well? Bitcoin did the same thing. Here, we had this bottom over here. We got some bottoming signals. We rallied up as a counter trend, tried to get a bounce off just off the 200 without closing below it. We ended up going below it here, got the bottoming signals over here, and then now we're struggling at that 200. Right now, we're selling off. We tried to get above it, and we're going sideways. Momentum line turned bullish, but you got to clear the 200 if we're going to go. Otherwise, your risk of testing this level. Major support down here with Bitcoin at Bitcoin's average price and horizontal support. So you lose that level, it's going to be extremely bearish. If we can bounce here and Bitcoin rallies above the 200 period moving average, we start seeing a massive rally back up to the resistance zone, then the S&P and the NASDAQ are likely going to follow suit. And again, still playing with the cord, trying to figure this out. I'm ordering a new one right now today. So again, hopefully I'll get this resolved. And I do apologize for that. Look, we've got these divergences. Are they done? Are we getting a throwback that's going to give us a higher low here? Or do we go higher and get higher high? Or do we go lower and get a one more reference point of a divergence? And again, maybe a bigger throwback that undercuts the previous low. So going to be watching that. Look, the Fed, I think that they're going to end up announcing quantitative tightening coming to a conclusion, and I think that could help the market. I think that they could even throw the market a bone and give us another rate cut for 2025 penciled in. We're going to get the projections, and again, there might be some market ease about the GDP if the Fed still has the projection of a positive number for 2025. Then the negative quarter that the market's been rattled over for the Atlanta Fed projection for GDP, which right now is currently at negative 2.1%. It was as low as negative 2.8%. It constantly changes, but that could ease some nerves as well. So that's what I'm looking at. Looking at these divergences, you have the same thing on the NASDAQ. S&P came just shy of that trend line. Can we get back above it and fill this gap and go to the 200 period moving average? Do we get a higher low, or do we get a pull back and get a deeper higher low, and then try to go higher and get something like that, or maybe towards this gap fill area? But if we try to fill this gap down here, then the risk is we go and take out this low. NASDAQ, the same thing. Is it getting a throwback? Here on the 60-minute chart, do we go down and make a lower low? We got a low divergence that gave us this bounce. We had the multiple point divergence on the RSI. We've broken out of the downward trend. We've gotten above the 50, but now we're throwing back and dropping below the 50. Again, we've got the gap overhead, and we got the 200 period on the daily, and then we got, again, the 200 way up here and the 50 period way up here on the daily. So again, we'll be watching the gap fill and the 200 if we can try to rally and fill our gap from today immediately. Or do we come back and fill this gap previously and try to move to a new low? Which gap gets filled first, down here or the gap up here and up here? Which one gets filled first? So we're going to be watching. Do we get a higher low, or do we get a slightly lower low? And if you get the lower low, you'll probably bottom with another reference point of a divergence on the MACD and the RSI.